Let me know if you can see me. Can you see me? Is it still clear?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, very good. So let me confirm that we are live on LinkedIn. Okay, let me see. I believe that we should be
Are we
live already.
supposed to be seeing it on LinkedIn? You said it's live, right?
All right, so I think we're live already. Yes. Currently, right now, we are live. We're streaming from the StreamYard, so it's streaming on LinkedIn. It might take a bit of time to come up, subject to your network strength, but once we are done, you'll be able to pick it up live. Yeah. So we are live on LinkedIn. I can see it right now. I can see it right now. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever it is that you're listening to us from. It's 2026, and if there's anything that every one of us will agree with, is the fact that branding is no longer a marketing conversation, it's a commercial one. And for a long time, branding has lived downstream, and it's something that existed within conversations around products, after sales strategy, after operations. These are conversations that branding has been tied to as such downstream. It was treated as how the business looked like, not necessarily how the business performed. But if there is anything that every one of us on this call will agree on, whether you're part of the speakers or you're listening to us, is that that is no longer a reality. Today, branding sits at upstream of revenue. It influences who takes your call, how quickly does the deal that you're pursuing move, how much of explanation your sales team has to do, and whether partners or the people you're interacting with trust you enough to commit. What we are saying across every type of business that currently exists, especially founder led businesses, is something simple but yet uncomfortable. And it's the fact that the market is no longer just buying products, it's no longer just about how amazing your service is. They are buying confidence, they are buying credibility, they are buying coherence. And one thing I would always say is that if, as a business or as a founder sitting at core strategic position within your organization, if you are not owning the story of your business, what you are doing is that you are outsourcing that responsibility to the market. And whatever they make out of it is what forms the perception of your brand, which at the end of the day can affect the performance of your business. That's something that many businesses are not very aware of. So, majorly, what this session seeks to do is not just to come here and start talking about logos, colors, brand name, content calendars, and all that. These are important, but majorly, what we're going to be talking about today is more or less like engaging branding as an infrastructure, the system that bears the trust of your business, that bears the trust that the market interacts with before your sales team even starts talking, before you start the execution of your brand strategy or of your brand plans. So it's us on the call here are three renowned personalities that I respect a lot, right? And we'll be taking turns for them to give us a bit of insight into what's going on in their heads. What have they found? What have they seen? What would they love to talk to us about on this call today? And in the next 1 hour 30 minutes, we're going to be having so much of interesting conversations. I'm just here to facilitate, of course, because I believe that there's a wealth of experience that they're bringing to play. So I would love to start with Candice, right? Not because we are told that ladies first, right? But I love to usually listen to Candice, and I love to usually have a start conversation because of first her personality, and also because of the angle that I believe she typically comes in to help set certain basic foundational infrastructure that is required as we begin to build this advanced conversation. So let's start with Candice. I would love to meet you, and then the next 5 to 10 minutes, let's hear what she has to say to us. So, Candice, over to you, please.
So, hello everybody. I'm Candace. For those who's not familiar with me, I'm located in the U.S. I met the host. Um, I don't know, 6 7 years ago, maybe longer, and I started it. I started my journey as an entrepreneur after I resigned from my AP position in the public school system. And at that period of time, I did not know what I was doing in the online arena back in 2015. But I have always believed in teaching and coaching because that was embedded in me. Slowly, I learned this whole thing called branding. At that time, nobody really know. I joined when I joined this whole online marketing arena, this home based business. Of course, just like everybody else, joined the MLM, the affiliate marketing, and that's how I all started it. But it has never really been stick with me because it become all those industry become very salesy to me, and it was not something that I was used to. Then I start learning this whole attraction marketing and I start learning the branding and I really believe in it. So I would say I started it, this whole branding thing, I started it branded myself since 2016, 2017. And I have never stopped. I never stopped. So right now is what, 2026 now. So it's almost 10 years that I have been in this industry. I have branded myself. I have always told people, every single client that I have coached, everyone that have come in contact with me, and I have always tell them one thing. I say, you will come across so many business opportunity. You will be doing this, you will be doing that. Business change just like job. You don't work in the same job as you were at 18 when you're 30, right? So your job change, your business opportunity change. One thing that stay consistent, it's you. I always tell people, you are the only constant in this whole thing. So why not brand yourself? So I have been teaching people how to brand themselves, how to find passion within themselves and turn that passion into an income instead of chasing that shiny object. I always call it a shiny object because there's so many opportunity coming. So I believe in branding. I've been teaching people about branding. Um, Ever since I discovered this branding and I love it. And I have been consistently branding myself. Your brand grow as you grow, right? But I have grown since 2016, 2017. However, one thing that stay consistent with me is the style that I have been teaching people. Those who have known me since 2016, 2017, they know that I'm a no nonsense action coach. I make people take action. That was my thing. Everybody know that I'm a no nonsense coach. If you want to come to Candace, she's gonna put you to work. So I have been branded myself this way, and so I have worked with a lot of entrepreneur, and case point right here. We have conversation from time to time. I told her she had been doing such a great job ever since I met her, and now she have all of this going on. I told her one of those days, the goal for her and I is that she will have a big stage with thousands of people in Nigeria, and she's gonna fly me out there to speak on the stage with her. That was the goal for us because I watched her branding herself and growing. And I found branding is very important. If people branding is a lot of people don't understand the whole idea of the branding. And right now, I'm working with a lot of I'm working with a lot of business that are in construction field, are in the engineering field. Those are my clients now. A lot of them they never know what branding is. They thought branding was the color, the fun, the beautiful website. And I told them, I said, no, the brand, your brand, it's how you carry yourself, how your message come across, your staff, how do they introduce your company to others. The whole company should have a common language when it comes to the company brand. I used to teach individual entrepreneur how to brand themselves. Now I'm teaching company with 20, 50, over 100 staff, teaching them how to brand their company. Because when you're going out to introduce the company, you go networking. You have to know what your company stands for. Your brand is basically what your company stands for, what you're known for, what you differentiate from other people. Just like you, what are you known for? What you bring to the table, why you're different than other branding coach or any other coach or anyone that who's doing the business that you are. So it has been a great journey for me. Like I say, it's almost 10 years. I have been teaching people how to build business online, how to marketing, how to brand themselves. It has been a great journey watching my student like her growing and others that been growing. It's been great. So I think that's a little bit about me. I don't know what else to say. Is that good enough?
Yeah, that's fine. And I think if there's any significant point that anybody takes out of the fact is the fact that the things that you would do would change, but the constant is you. And it's important to be able to come into, resonance with what exactly it is that gets you to keep moving. And that's what you create an infrastructure around, such that whether it is network marketing, whether you are a structured business or an organized business, whether you're an entrepreneur, you do not lose track or you do not lose touch with what makes you you. Because at the end of the day, this is actually what characterizes the purpose of what you do. It informs why you're even doing what you're doing, and it helps you to also be able to filter the noise to focus on what truly matters. And that's why I actually wanted you to set the tone for the conversation, because every other thing that you do rests on this understanding. Every other thing that you do. Just like she said, I remember I met her in, I think that should be 2016, right? And one of the questions that Candice asked me is, what do you like doing? I'm like, I like talking to people. I like teaching. I'm like, perfect. You have a tool. So what you will do, fun fact, Candice signed me up to the first program that ever brought me into the scope of what social media marketing or digital marketing was, and she paid for it, even though she had never met me. And for me, that was an investment that I felt I did not want to waste. And for every critical point that I found myself, she would always be that person that I reference to. And I've also seen her pivot over time. She used to be a coach. Now, I think the last time I saw Candice is now the head of operations for an engineering outfits, and I see what they're doing, and they're doing significantly well. And I'm seeing how she's also helping to position the brand, even help each individual in the organization to also have a sense of identity online. And for me, that's super amazing, because what that does is that it also helps the organization to be able to create that bridge between the personal brand and the corporate brand of every employee within that space. So I want to move to Mike. And Mike, it would be a great thing to have you speak to us. And then lastly, we then move to Temitope. So I give the mic to you, Mike.
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be here. Always nice to speak and engage with like-minded people. So my story, so my background is revenue growth. I've had the pleasure of working with large and small businesses over the last 20 years, um, focused around supporting these businesses to grow as somebody who was within the business, and have an individual contributor target. But over the last 4.5, 5 years, I've been coaching CEOs and founders in terms of how to grow their people and their revenue. And this is relevant because I moved I shifted my trajectory from inside organizations, large, small, medium. I saw what worked and what didn't work. I saw what made them successful and what did not make them successful, into actually then saying, this is the the package that I've seen that work, and therefore let me support other businesses to be able to go from good to great. And it's interesting, Candice talking about the definition of branding, because you take me back 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have thought when people say the word or use the word branding, I'm thinking about logos and messaging and social presence, right? But it's far from that. Because what I have seen from working in some very large businesses is that a prime example, I worked at this hosting company early 2010s. It was one of the companies where I actually saw branding come to life, right? And I think for me, when I talk about branding, I'm now looking at branding from a company level to a leadership level, to an individual level, or the employee level, right? So I'm kind of looking at 3 layers. And that company that I'm referring to now, the brand was so strong, but everything was work inherently from the inside out, right? The branding was more to do with, let's build our values and a vision. Let's build, let's give them clarity, because if we can give that branding, almost the customers will come in, they'll feel it was infectious, right? They'll come in, we don't have to do a lot of the selling, and they'll just buy from us. And it worked, right? So from that point on, that was one of the key things I took out from learning from that organization, is that as a leader, you almost got to have that clarity with vision for yourself and the values for yourself, because you're almost, you have to empower and influence the employees. And if you can almost do that, employees feel empowered. And if they feel empowered, they behave in such a way that customers want to work with you. So the revenue piece is almost an output of you leading from a value-led perspective and from a vision-led perspective. So I see myself in the work that I do now with coaching, that although I'm very much aligned to revenue and revenue growth, I almost bring the people element in it, right? Whether it's within scope or not, I'm always saying, hey, like, what's your vision? What are your values? Because if you can get that system right, and I'm sure we're going to dive into that at some point, if you can get that system right, it's like a machine, and you just oil it every now and then, and the results will take care of itself. So yeah, it's a topic not widely spoken about, but I think it's time for us to kind of dive in and really share our perspectives on that. So yeah, looking forward to diving in, and I'll hand over to you back to you, Omotola, I guess for Timoteo to do his intro.
Yeah, thank you so much. I actually love the conclusion. Wrap up conclusion. Don't mind me. The conclusion that you wrap it up with, because like you said, I do agree that pretty much when it comes to engaging with your business, what buyers do right now is that they assess the credibility of your business way before they start engaging. And you realize that before your salesperson even begin to talk about the value proposition that your business is bringing on board, before they start talking about how many deals that they have closed, buyers are making research about the company. Buyers are making research about who are the key decision makers, who are the executives, before they even start responding to the outreach that your sales teams are making. And at the same time, your partners are also evaluating the leadership visibility even before signing an MOU, especially if you are in the kind of relationship where physical contact has not been established. Also, investors also look for consistency between narrative to leadership posture and to execution. And what this means for us is that Branding is now part of a pre-sales qualification. Visibility is no longer just an option. It's now interpreted as either your brand is being intentional or you're just being absent. It's no longer a case of you just saying, we will do it when we have enough fund. We'll do it when, come to that point where we have enough capacity for it. It is now a necessity. And just like you said, it's super instructive that if you are a business and you have salespeople, the revenue, movers, the customer support, even your tech team, whatever team that you have, every aspect of the moving part that makes your business functional contributes in one way or the other to what the brand is perceived at. And that is what we then begin to talk about as branding being a, an infrastructure. It is not just an isolated activity. And thank you for sharing that. I would be moving now to Temitokwe. So, can we meet you, Temitokwe? And what's your thoughts on this conversation, Brandon?
Hi, thank you, Omotola. Hi, Michael. Hi, Candace. It's great talking and being here. Good afternoon to everyone listening, based here in Lagos. Brief background just for people who may be watching. I've been in the technology management consulting and marketing space for the last 20 years. I've scaled pretty much about four companies, sold three of them, scaling one, and provide consultations to similarly almost about 100 companies in my career. This topic is very important. I think it's one of the first things I always tell every single person. And I'm going to put it from a case of like a story, right? And I always say that in my time, I'm very, very obsessed in how people build products and services, right? And if there's something I've learned helping companies scale from the Lagos scene to global scene is that people don't buy your products, right? You think they do. What they buy is the emotions, and they are creating a job to be done, which is a better version of what they hope to achieve for themselves, right? So when we talk about branding for revenue, we're talking about the aesthetics, which is where everybody's always think it is. We're talking about the trust, all right? The trust tax your brand is paying before you ever walk into a room. So when your brand is weak, it takes effect in your sales, long sales cycles. Never heard about you. Who are you? I'm not sure, right? Because people don't trust you. But when your brand is very strong, people want to be part of you. And this is things that I've learned, all right? Because when I was starting this early on in my career, before I ever started my first company, I had a very uh, different notion to say, oh, branding is what the physical thing. Just think about it like a tuxedo, right? I felt it was something that brands would wear or how they look. Um, and I always make a joke that if it was by that, if we didn't take branding seriously, would have won that tuxedo but had 0 naira in our bank account. And so in reality, branding is not just the outfits you wear, it's more about the reputation, right? Someone like Seth Godin says, branding is how you want to show up in the marketplace every single time. And that's about consistency. So what is the reputation you want people to know about you that goes before you, even before you enter a room, right? And that is one thing that is about consistent. So while people look about it from a case of visual elements, I look at it from a case of emotional elements. I look at it from a case of what emotions do you trigger to people? What do you show up for consistently? What do you do? It's how you do things, and not one of the key things in this common set is consistency, right? When Apple launched, it launched because it decided to differentiate from the norm. It has continued that trend, even though we may argue one or two times it is diluted over the bit. But it was known as innovation, innovative company coming up with new products, being different. And even this was a culture passed down from the founder down to every employee to be different, to think differently. And so branding is also internal, right? When people think it's external, it's also internal. It's also part of your work culture. How do you want your employees to see the company and how they work? Because if they don't see the business as the if they don't really have that conviction of where the company is headed, then you would have a mixed feeling. You can sit down and speak to the human resource person about the company and ask someone from finance and ask someone from sales, yet again, ask someone from operations or compliance. You'll find 8 different conversations and 8 different ways to talk about your brand. But when your brand is committed, everybody says the same thing. We are this, we are doing this. And so it's very important because I always tell people that somehow how people find your business is usually sometimes not online. Offline, it's from one of your employees on a very good Sunday afternoon, maybe at church, maybe at a playground, and they're asking, "Oh, you're an employee of this. What do you guys do?" And that is where branding start kicking on. Bro. How do you position? I'm not. Sometimes we're not saying be the act and do it. So sometimes a lot of people like to say, "Oh, because they wear a blue suit or a blue tie with a pinstripe, you're from here." Look, sometimes it's just a case of if the conviction is strong enough and the story you're strong enough that your team can imbibe this. But externally,
Mm.
when people hear about your company, what do they say first about your business? What value proposition do you help them do? What job to be done do you help them say? When you're explaining your solution, how clear is it? I I may I mean I tell people that only time I hear founders pitch to me and they go start doing a lot of I'm telling them, see, if we're going to be technical, I am the most technical person you can be. Right? I started from telecommunications. I went into I've been in Pioneer. I'm literally first principle to set up most of my businesses are the first in the market. Nothing existed prior. I research far and wide. I know about technologies that you will never know about. So let's not go there. Let's come down to a very simple thing. What does your business actually help a client or
Do.
customer
Yeah.
do? And bring it simple. Simplification is like in an era of buzzwords, when you're simple, you stand out. And I always make this analogy. If you're in a room where there's a lot of red shirts, can you be the white shirt? By just
Mm.
nature of being different or switching or being different from what is the norm, you started your branding process. And so branding for revenue generation is vital in especially today's world. Right now, attention span is less than 3 seconds, right? Right? We're bombarded by social media, multiple AI, and then we're in the world of AI, whereby people are searching and seeing results in milliseconds, right? And that world is going crazy. I'm from the world. I understand how things are changing, models are changing, things are allowing you to do differently. And so, if you cannot really have your brands ring true, then you will suffer in revenue. And this is very
Mm.
vital in today's world, especially now. So thank you so much. And I hope this sets the tone for the topic.
Yeah, it definitely does set the tone. I think for me, one significant thing that I can pick of the multiple things that you said is I think you kind of like double down more on the conversation of branding as an infrastructure. And from how you explain this, I'm seeing branding as an infrastructure that functions like a system. It supports growth, it enables execution, it reduces friction, it scales behavior, not just visibility. It also creates some sort of, should I call it an epidemic of a kind of behavior within your internal team in such a way that you do not necessarily have to force people to act or behave in a particular way, but just simply because it has become a culture internally, these are now evidence that you're seeing in how your team operates. Just like tech or operation, if the brand infrastructure is weak, like you said, everything built on top of it will underperform. And specifically on the aspect of, you know, branding being internal, I think that's for me also drives it a lot home as it keys into the conversation that we are about to go into. Because this is the part that most teams ignore and then they compensate for it later. And that compensation is usually very, very costly. Internally, branding helps you to align decision making, right? People know how to act, not just what to do. It creates behavioral consistency across your team. It sets the standard for quality, for tone, and even for ambition and aspiration. It also acts as a filter for hiring, for partnerships, and even for what your team should prioritize. From what you said, for me, it seems like you're telling me that when I do branding very well, especially internally, it will help my team to move faster. And that's one thing that I remember while we were preparing for there's a retreat that we have coming up in March. It's called the Authority Weekend. And one of the things that I was saying in one of the ads is that one of the key things that ensures that there is speed to implementation, there is coherence, there is consistency across board, is when there is proper branding done starting from the founder. Because when there's clarity on what the exact thing that a team is supposed to achieve is done, and when even the business manager, the founder, the team lead, when they themselves embody what it is that they want the team to do, you realize that fewer approvers are needed because people just automatically just blend in because whatever it is that you're doing is super clear. Execution just feels so coherent and it's not forced. It's not even coercive. It's not even there's no coerce in it, right? There's no chaos in it. And what you also realize is that whether it is people on the field or it is people who are working internally, your marketing team, your sales team, your product team, everybody will be saying the same thing. The story will be the same. And that empowers even your sales team to further be able to, achieve whatever it is that they have to do as it contributes to the revenue of the organization. So now this brings me to the first question for founder-led businesses, which of course is what our conversation is primarily focused on. Of course, if your business is not founder-led, if you have like boards, this is also still very much relevant to you. But today, we really want to zero in on founder led businesses because we know that interacting with this kind of business is kind of like dynamic. Because for founder led businesses, at the point where um, they are the ones spearheading many decision making, the founder is no longer separate from the brand, right? Because the question that the market start asking is, does leadership truly understand the space they operate in? Can they articulate trade-offs clearly? Do they show judgment publicly or they just hide behind the company page? In many cases, the absence of founders' visibility creates this kind of friction, even in enterprise sales, in partnerships, in talent attraction, not necessarily because the founders need to be influencers or constantly create viral content, but because the market equates the visibility of the founder with accountability. So for me, it brings me to this question that I want to ask every one of us. How do you think leadership visibility influences deal flow and the enterprise trust from the market to the business itself, since we're talking revenue? So let's start from Michael.
No, great question. Somehow I thought you were going to go to Candice first, so I was ready for coming in afterwards. But look, I think some credible points made
I like the
by
element of surprise.
so some credible points made across the board. I think for me, I look at it as every business exists to grow, right? You know, Temi Tope founded a couple of businesses. He found his first business because he wanted to grow, right? And founders is no different, and neither is it different for CEOs and other leaders. What I've seen, and I think somebody spoke to it, is that there tends to be ambiguity and some haziness when it comes to the direction in which the founders are steering. And that for me is fundamentally the first point. Secondly, as well, is if we look at the character of that leader of that organization. And when I talk about character, you know, for me, I always believe the character is when the brand or the individual is able to bounce back or go through some difficult situations and get back to where they are. So it's almost that resilience, right? And a good brand is almost able to withstand any challenges and still bounce back. But if I look at an organization that I want to use as an example, I worked at Salesforce 2015 to 2017, and I remember, you know, Salesforce is a brand that we can all relate to, right? Globally, right? Not just America or the UK or Africa. And when I started in that organization, the one thing that became apparent was that there was a system in place. And that system was Mark Benioff, who, you know, we know the founder, had a way in which he built the brand to withstand any challenges that would have come, right? And it started from a very clear vision. So everybody in the organization knew what the vision was, and he had a thing, an acronym called V2MOM. If you ever never known V2MOM, you Google V2MOM, is V number 2 MOM, or technically it's VVMOM. And it simply stood for vision, values, methods, obstacles, and measures. He used that to build a business back in 1999. And the story goes, he was obviously working at Oracle. He was fed up with the way Oracle was doing things. And he wanted to change, just like Apple and Temi Tope, alluded to. Apple wanted a different way of doing things, right? He wanted a different way of doing things because of the cloud computing era in 1999 and before that. So the story goes, they were at somewhere in Hawaii, and he took a piece of paper, or I think it was a handkerchief or something, and he scribbled V2MOM at the back of it, and he said V is vision, the other V is values, M is methods, obstacles, and measures. And do you know what? That was his way of thinking, to say, I'm going to build a brand that lives with this, right? Anyway, Parker Harris, who used to be the CTO at the time, and I believe he's still the CTO, kept that piece of paper. And when they went public, I think early 2000s or whatever year it was, he actually took it out and said, do you remember this thing back in 1999 where it? And I say that to say, when I was at Salesforce, I had my V2MOM. Everyone, irrespective of what level you're at, you had. So if I'm a sales guy, what's my vision for my territory? What are my values that I'm going to live to? And it almost like fit. It's like a puzzle. He had his, Mark Benioff, all the leaders that reported to him had theirs, my VP, and we all had ours. Now, what happened there was we were aligned. Irrespective of the level you're at, you don't feel like my efforts are not being valued, because you felt like I'm part of this growth machine. And the most important thing that I wanted to kind of obviously paint out here is the value piece, because we almost forget that, you can set a vision, but if there are no values that anchors it, right? And the values are the belief systems, things that are the non-negotiables, because that is what customers, and I used to bring customers in, and the customers will see us almost believing in almost the same belief systems, so that there's no contention here. If there was, a debate around rules of engagement, okay, what does the value say? Let's go back to the value. So for me, if there are any founders, any leaders that are looking at building a brand, whether it be a personal brand, whether it be a brand for the business, there's almost got to be that non-negotiables and that system in place that everybody needs to conform to that system. Because if that happens, there's clarity, and obviously with clarity, brings about a system. The system can almost create a behavior in the organization, and that behavior becomes trusted, And if you're trusted, like Temitope mentioned, buyers, in my experience, they buy for their reasons, but they buy because they trust you. Why would a buyer, have two options and pick that one? It's an emotional decision, right? But the emotional decision is almost the trust factor. And then later on, they rationalize it and say, oh yeah, I made it because of this logical reason. No, it wasn't. It was the trust, right? So yeah, we've got to have a system in place, and we've got to have some values that anchors those systems. And to the point that everyone made, there's got to be that clear vision, that clarity, so we can all kind of conform to that.
Amazing, amazing. So Candace, over to you. Um, Without necessarily I'm repeating myself, just the same question as well. How does leadership visibility influence deal flow and enterprise trust? Of course, Michael came from the angle of value, right? And having vision, of course, and that vision concretizing into value that then trickles down to everyone. That alignment allows everyone within the team to be able to engage the markets, even though in dynamic way, but yet in one voice. And that helps with the brand perception, increases the trust because people make emotional decisions first before eventually translating it into logical reasons. So now back to the question. How do you think the visibility, the online engagement and interactions, the attention that a founder or a leader puts into themselves and the decisions that they make, how do you think it affects the deal flow of your sales team? Maybe I put it that way. How does it affect the results that your revenue creating team achieve down the line?
It's very, very good question. And before I get into my answer, I have to echo back something that Michael and Temitope mentioned, right? I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm learning. Okay. Here's the thing. I like how both of them mentioned something that, and I think this is why all four of us are in the same room, because there's a core value that a lot of people are not seeing when they're going out there preaching about branding. Number one, branding was never color, logo, or website, right? We all agree on that. We all agree that consistency, it's the key. I keep telling a lot of my clients this day, I say, we are living in a society that if it's like, what was the term? If they don't see you, you're not working, especially in the online arena. If you're not showing up on the online arena, you're not working, even though you're working behind the scene very hard, but you're not being seen to the world. And then another thing, the biggest thing that I have heard from both of them was that the culture, the company culture, the company culture carry a lot of weight on this whole branding. Everybody could come in and help you and craft out a brand, but it's your company, it's every single one of your person, especially the leader of the company. Are you carrying that culture? Are you carrying that vision, right? Because it's important. So as I am a COO for a civil engineering firm right now. And the company have just celebrated 5 years anniversary. I came into the company when they were just 1 year old. And a little backstory about this company. The owner of the company, actually my sister, all right? She started her own business. She does not do social media whatsoever. She started her own business and she hustled for the first year. She finally came to me. He's like, can you just help me with my LinkedIn? I don't know how to post. I don't know what to do. So I was only brought on to help her with LinkedIn because I had my other stuff. I have job. I have my own business. I have a lot of stuff going on. I said, okay, I come to help you with your LinkedIn under only one condition. And I told her, I said, under one condition, you have to trust me. Give me 100% control. Because here's the thing. I know what I'm doing. I know from her background, if I was not going to say that, there will be a little pushback like, oh, why do you do things like this? Because engineering and tech people, they're a little stiff when it comes to marketing. They're not as vibrant as a marketing creator. So I did come in to help, but that's when I come in to help with the marketing, with the social media, is to, because she was hustling, she was going out to networking with people and all that, but she was not posting on social media. So to other people, she's not working. Nobody know her. So I came on board to help with her LinkedIn. But beyond that, that's when I start seeing there's no brand in place in the company, because she didn't even know what brand mean, right? She did not know. So by me branding, helping her come up with helping her building the brand for the company, because I told her I'm gonna come in. I told her 4 years ago, I say, I want to build a brand for you based on her passion, why she get into the business. I said, I'll build a brand for you I want to build a brand for her that people wants to partner with her and want to work for her. 5 years later, we have gotten so many partners come to us, want to partner with us, going after big project with the state and all of that. We have people, we posting job. We barely have anybody turn around. Like they don't quit. They want to come back to work for us, right? We have people want to work for us, all of those, because of the value. A lot of people think branding a company is awesome. Just tell the world what my company do. But go back to the conversation that we have. People don't do business with your goods and services. They do business with you, your company, how you make them feel. Like the conversation that both gentlemen have mentioned, that people buy because of the emotion. And I always teach people, a lot of people like me, simple thing, I buy this not because I need it. I bought it and then I come home and justify why I need it. It's an emotional attachment. I didn't have to get, I don't need it. But after I bought it, I attach emotion to it. People buy and then they justify why they buy. Because they buy from you because they trust you. And I have always preached that people only do business with people who they know, like, and trust. Only those three things. If they don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you, they are not going to give you their hard-earned money. So when it comes to the leader of the company, how important it is for them to be out there on the social media. I'm working with a lot of big company, like they have firm that, their company 20, 30 years into the firm. And they ask my company to look at that, marketing. And I say, by looking at your website, I don't even know you, because they feel like, why do I need to be there? It's my company's work. I don't need to be famous. But here's the difference. If you are the leader and you have the experience and you are the person who's making the executive decision for the company, but nobody know of you and your experience and your work, why would I trust you? Because anybody want to do business with, the first thing they want to know is, all right, I want to see who owns this company. Because if you Google that company, the first thing they want to do is like, okay, I'm going to look at what the work that they do. I'm going to look at the leadership. Oh, this leader have done all of this, right? So it's just like the civil engineering firm that I have been working with, right? Not only I promoting, I'm helping to build a company brand. I'm also building her up, because in order for her company to grow, especially for small business, if you're small, if you're big international business, that's another thing. But if you're starting small, this is where the conversation, a lot of people feel as, well, I'm small, I don't have money for marketing or branding, so I'm gonna wait. They keep putting it off. But you could actually build a brand that you don't need to spend a lot of money. You start from you. What's your passion? And that's where we're going. So with my sister, her passion is not about making money. Us, it's not about making money. It's all about how can we help those who need help. There's a lot of people, college is not for everybody. How can we help those people who did not go to four-year university still get into the Department of Transportation? So we, by doing that, we're doing training courses. How do we help other small business to groom them? We partner up with them. So we go out there to do a lot of education in the industry. And by doing that offline, her going to network offline, me doing it online, showcasing what she's doing, what she's getting involved, what organization she's involved, why she involved, all of this, the company and her grow. And because of I'm doing what I'm doing for her, not knowing much, my company grow. So because we build with a passion, we build with a vision. Going back to we always, you have to believe in what you build. Your brand, if you don't believe in your brand, you're just going out there and talking BS, and people could actually tell, right? You have to believe in what you're doing. My biggest thing has always been you have to believe in what you're selling. If you don't believe in it, people could see it. So the leader of the company, you have to be also active in marketing yourself, not in the salesy way, but in the culture. What is your passion? What culture you're bringing in? Because however you reflect in the world, it reflect in you. It reflect into your company. People will say, "Oh, this is a great leader. I want to be part of this organization. This is a great leader. They're building something good. I want to partner with them." And that's how you build a brand. That's how a brand continue to live. Once you have that passion and you're showing to people, it all comes back to those two gentlemen have mentioned: trust, consistency, culture. That's it. This is not a magic pill. A lot of people feel branding is a magic thing that they have to spend big money on it. You have to believe in it. You have to have passion in something. You always want to build something bigger than yourself. I'm a true believer of no matter what you start, everybody start business because they want to make money. But money is great. What's next? What's bigger than the money, right? You have to have something. Like for me, the biggest thing is how can I help others? How can my story influence others to be better? And that's the bottom line. So that's what I have to share.
Thank you very much. So, to be talked about also over to you. How does the visibility of a founder or of leadership affect deal flow and enterprise trust?
Right, that's a great question. I think for me, it's going to answer it from multiple approaches. Um, but I think you should look at it from a Venn diagram. I'm sure everyone will know what that is. On one side, you have the company's identity, right? What is the mission of the business? What is the product you're selling? And why, I mean, the ethos of why you exist. Why? Why are they selling that product? Then on the other side of the Venn diagram, we have the leader's identity. Who are you in terms of your person, your personal expertise, and your leadership style? And in terms of creating a brand or how a leader shows up that affects or dilutes the brand, it's in that overlap between the company identity and the leader's identity, right? Most people make the mistake of being the main character, right, in the show. um, you need to be more of a narrator, right? And so sometimes you see some brands whereby you barely know the company and what it does, but you know the founder. And on the flip side, there's sometimes you see great brands, you barely know who the founder is. I like to be on the reverse side, know about my brand, not really about what I do, right? Because I'm a narrator. But when I speak publicly, I want to be able to share perspective of the problems the company is solving. and I want to do it in a human and mission focused way, right? So if my personal brand is great, it builds trust. And if it builds trust, it opens the doors with the right ideal customers that I'm targeting, right? In terms of corporate. So, and it's also about authenticity. You need to be very authentic. You want to be able to be very unique, but you don't essentially have to share everything in your life. I see that and I'm like, I don't need to share everything about my life. I'm a very private person by nature. Some people share about the failures, and I say, great, failures are great lessons, but not all type of failures we must know about, right? Some people talk about behind the scenes. They're all great, but again, not everything should be showed on social, right? So founders need to differentiate from being welcome to the me show, right? As against having a proper balance between the authentic self and the creations, and of course, the product and what the mission they stand by, right? And so, what you want to do and how it affects it is that you need to make sure people can separate the business from you. Because if you and the business are one, anything that happens to you happens to the business. I know if someone hates you, they hate the business, right? And so you want to be able to create that line to say, this is my company, this is what it stands for. But I also stand for something else. I am me without my company, right? And so it's a very interesting dicey line. It's not, sometimes people don't get it right. Some people make their brand everything about them. And usually it affects, sometimes in a positive way and a negative way. So I will give you a very interesting one I know of. We all know about the actor who added that Deadpool, right? Ryan.
Right. Yeah.
Ryan's companies, right? What Ryan does is that he takes his natural brand personality, he's a likable character, and he translates it into his brand to speak about what he likes. And so with telecoms, where he is talking about mobile phones, he's bringing his funny nature into that ads that you see. Now, people like the brand because they know him, right? And but what makes them buy is the value proposition and not really about it. And so, in a good way, that's you personalizing your brand to a product. On the flip side of the spectrum, there's one guy which we know, a very smart man who built EV cars, and he bought one social media platform. I'm not going to call his name. Everyone kind of figures. And of course, he's always a very polar, reactive person. And you've seen that in backlash of the car sales of his brand because people are turned off from his political leanings, the affected car sales. What has he done? He has switched his approach immediately because he went to say, let me go away, let me move away from the whole political drama and just do be a normal businessman. And they've come back up. Those are very clear cases of when you attach your personal brand to business. I'm not saying you should not. I'm saying that you should be careful about doing that, right? Because it affects it's all perception game. I can look at Michael and say, wow, Michael worked in Salesforce. They're smart people, they're hustlers. That means Michael's consulting. I know Michael is going to be a very direct person and is going to push me. I've heard Candace talk. I know how Candace said that she wants to come as a no bullshitter. So I know if I need someone to really put that military bag leaning on my back, I go to Candace. So that's my perception just first meeting them. What if I didn't just like Michael, right? By nature, because Michael has been pushing this brand, I'm seeing him. I literally just put off and say, you know what? I'm not going to buy from Michael because I don't like Michael. And usually that happens when you have too much of a personal, integrated
Yes.
brand self in your brand. So you need to have a bit of buffer, right, in between both. But at the same time, it can work good. So this is where it's a very slippery slope. It can work good and blow your brand to the extreme, right? Because truthfully, once people know what you stand for, they like you, they're buying from you, they know you, they trust you. And so they will come to you always to say, as long as you're the CEO of this company, I keep buying from you. So it can work, yes, for a positive and negative, but I always just advise trying to separate. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Thank you so much. My network went a bit off, so I wasn't entirely sure that you were done. We've actually said a lot, and I'm not even all out to ensure that we answer all of the questions that we have, because the goal is to have um, the conversation in an hour, 30 minutes. Please, for every single person who is watching us, feel free to drop your questions in the comment section. Um, we would be very, very, very willing to respond to all of the questions that we have. But while we are waiting for questions that might come from um, individuals, um, I know that one of the speakers might drop off soon because they need to attend to some things. And but then I want to use this opportunity to say thank you to every one of us. Like, I've been taking a lot of notes, and I like the fact that we are coming from different angles, but yet I'm still seeing some degree of consistency in the conversation. I don't know if Temitope will be able to speak before he goes. The question I want to ask is, how do brands design go-to-market strategies that aligns with visibility, that aligns visibility rather with conversion? Because visibility is when you look at your funnel, whether it's your sales funnel or your marketing funnel, there are top of the funnel activities, there are middle of the funnel activities, and there's the bottom of the funnel activities. Visibility sits at the awareness stage, which is where you have your top of the funnel activity, where you're talking to a lot of people. And then conversion speaks to the bottom of the funnel activities, which are the output of the engagement that has driven people from the top into your funnel through nurturing engagement and all the unique dynamics that comes with that kind of interaction. We have already established that branding is an infrastructure. It's something that is transformed or that is transferred both to your external elements that interact with your business and also internal. So now the question is, what should how do I put it now? Like, how do you design go-to-market strategy as a business in such a way that it aligns that top of the funnel activity and bottom of the funnel activity together, such that at the end of the day, you know that revenue is ensured or it is predictable, because that's where conversion sits. Of course, there are other forms of conversion, but now we're talking conversion with regards to revenue. Yes, you're muted. Tell it up.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I think I was just waiting to speak. So I think if I hear your correct question correct, you're looking at how do we design when building go-to-market strategies, how do we design um, branding that will drive revenue. So when you look at the first thing from a top of funnel, which is about awareness, um, the goal for you at this time is to educate and entertain, right? Um, in terms of designing, we're looking at how do we make sure people click, like high click through rates or something that people recall the brand or a brand recall system, right? And when you go down the funnel on the consideration stage, which is the middle funnel, um, your brand is seen as an expert. So you want to solve, which is the goal, and simplify, which is the message, which means what will make people from a case of creating lead magnets, which will drive people to site or to app or to whatever called conversion funnel or metrics or mechanics that you've set up. It could be webinars such as this, right? And then from a bottom side, from a decision, you want to be seen as a brand, as a partner to reassure and validate. So things like trials, your demos, and sales. So the first thing is building out, of course, the design. You're not listing features, like I said. You're creating a narrative, right? and you're essentially in the mind of the audience saying, this is the old way of doing things. This is how we're coming to the market, right? And consistency. So, how do you look? If you're a luxury brand, for example, how's your website? How do you look across different places? Because you've created a subconscious, what do you call it? A subconscious
Perception.
perception, right, of users. And if you're not able to show that, there's immediate distrust. How are you a luxury brand and you are not showing that you're a luxury brand? And that puts people off. So in designing your go-to-market, you have to look at what are your values. If your value is efficiency, your onboarding should not take 12 steps, right? It's a brand alignment mismatch. If your go-to-market, in your go-to-market design, your onboarding should be like 2 clicks because you are speaking efficiency. If you're speaking about fun, then make it fun. Essentially, your value add you think about it. So you need to look at your content, right? From the awareness content, what is the essential awareness? So you're putting it as a case of what is the cost of inaction without working on your brand. And for a conversion side, you're using social proof. You're using case studies, right, to again design that brand. Now, when you're measuring this, because everything must be measured, what you're trying to achieve with in your go-to-market and branding is how you reduce your customer acquisition costs, right? How much are you spending to acquire customers? If customers already know and trust you, they are going to your website, you're not spending money, you're reducing your money. It means your perception out there is converting. You also want to increase your average contract value. If you're a premium brand, you can price higher, right? And you can get away with it. Again, most especially with sales, how do you reduce your sales cycle? Oh, I know this brand, I know what they stand for, I've used them before, or where I used to work prior, I know them, or I've heard about it. Okay, they may work for us. That creates the heavy lifting because the brand has gone out there to do all that heavy lifting to help you remember. Again, so when you are thinking about branding from a go-to market, you're thinking about how your brand can really, really unlock or reduce the time, right, for your brand to for you to sell, for you to convert. And so across each of the funnels, based on what you stand for, how is your brand helping achieve that? Or what is your branding looking like? How are you showing up? What are you doing to ensure that you're removing the steps that it takes to convert faster and better? And that is essentially how you plan in your go-to market. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you very much. And to add to that, I would always say that when it comes to creating a go to market strategy, you must have clarity on the critical steps that your potential customers will be taking and design it in such a way that number one, you have insight into each of these steps. It is super transparent internally, but easy. You're creating an experience for people. But in creating that experience, you also need to be able to, it's like the same way your branding is like a narration, right? That journey can also be crafted in such a way, in a way that you can predict what the potential outcome will be. Because for visibility, what you're driving at is creating awareness, generating interest. Then he talked about entertaining and education. And then when you're bringing them down, you're nurturing them, you're moving away from just creating awareness, but then streamlining down to functionalities. Now talking about how this, what does that which you have become aware about my business or the product that we're selling, how does it translate into value? Value means what can I do with it? What can it solve for me? So I'm not just coming to your platform to just read about what you do because your website, your social media, everything must be optimized in such a way that subject to what stage that person is in your funnel, you are speaking to them. And that is why in designing a go-to-market strategy, whether it is um, the messaging or it is the technical infrastructure that you're setting in place, they all must speak to one another. Whether you're leveraging on automation or you're just leveraging on your Salesforce to do the interaction, or it is just the campaign mechanism that you have set up in place, everything must be speaking to people at the stage that they find themselves, such that even if a person does not meet you at the point of awareness, maybe it wasn't because they saw your social media, maybe they met you somewhere. By the time you're bringing them into the funnel, the activities that are created within that place should translate into so much value that further drags them down into a place where they then make the decision to buy. And then they make that decision, you have converted them. There should also be a strategy for retention, which is where expansion and scaling and interaction comes in. And you talked about it. I'm installing, but my work should not necessarily stop at you installing my application, because we found situations whereby people come on board and they get to install your solution, but they do not finish that cycle, right? Because the goal is not to just have people install, it is to actively use the platform and what it is designed to provide. So thank you so much for that masterclass in just short period, talking about design and also looking at how to synchronize it with visibility and conversion. Like we said, conversion is subjective. Of course, at the end of the day, results into revenue creation, but there's also certain critical activities that captures conversion beyond revenue conversion. But then at the end of the day, all of those activities translates to that. I know that you have to go, Timmy Talkway. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are so delighted. We're so delighted to have had you join the call. So while you excuse yourself, except you have a final statement for us. Do you have a
I
final
think,
statement for us?
well, I think with both I've said, I think most of the core points is that get your branding up
Mhm.
and make sure like you're really thinking critically around the personal brand, the company brand, how you figure out how to reduce the sales cycle of the business, what you
Mhm.
stand up, what you show up for, what you want to be consistently known as, and of course the
Mhm.
value proposition. So all of this must align, but you have to
Yeah.
get a very great brand. So I think obviously you can always catch me up. Anytime. I think Omotola contacts if they
Yeah,
need.
and they can contact you also. Feel free to send them a friend request on LinkedIn. Is Temitope Akundayo, the CEO, the co-founder of Get Equity. Aside from Get Equity, there are also a bunch of other things, amazing
I,
stuff that Temitope does. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and it's a delight. I'm sure yourself and every other speaker will connect afterwards and
all
behind the
right.
scene.
Have a nice day, Michael.
It's
Can
good.
catch you up.
Good to meet you,
All right.
mate.
Thank you. Yeah, bye. All right. So back to you, Candice and Mike. I think I will start with Candice. Temitope ended the conversation on understanding how this translates into impacting your sales cycle. And for me, I want to go a bit back into the conversation around the role of the personal branding. Because I'm saying this because we're beginning to see a lot of founder led businesses. Many people are now switching into entrepreneurship. And it's almost like as if there was a way that my organized organization, my organized company where I used to be, there was a way that we used to do it. And the mishap that we see is that people automatically want to translate what, because I would always say that the system that exists in a standard growing and established organization cannot be superimposed on a founder-led business, especially if that business is just emerging, right? And which is one of the reasons why I really want us to have this conversation, because I interact a lot with founder-led businesses, with businesses where the key decision maker is the founder. So you see, they are the co-founder and the CEO. It's not like a business like Salesforce, or a business like the Virgin Atlantic, where the CEO is not, where the founder is not necessarily, at the CEO seat. So for them, they have grown to a point whereby, to a degree, the personality or the brand of the founder has somewhat been a lot distinct from the corporate brand. But right now, for businesses that are just 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, even 6 years, some of them have not really grown to so much scale where we can now categorically say that they are a startup, or we can categorically say that they are established businesses. For businesses like that, I want us to talk about it. I will start from Candice. This will be our last topic on this call. What role do you think personal branding play in shortening the sales cycle? because everything we'll be talking about is all revenue, and how does everything that we're doing translate into money in the bank, because that's why we're in business, aside from the fact that we want to deliver value to people.
I could answer this in a very, very short answer. I all come back to, the basic. Why people buy? Why people spending money? They spend money because they have an emotional attachment to it. So, as a founder of the company, such as myself, people buy it. People come to me, ask me to coach them, not because of my beautiful website or not because of my beautiful funnel. It's all about me, how I personally brand myself, how I carry myself, offline and online. Can they relate to me? And one thing that you should know, I am I'm very carefree type person. I don't get on. I don't get on to. I don't get on the camera with full blown makeup because this is not who I am. And when I first started it, my kids were small. I was very focusing on helping mom. My brand has always been helping women who needs help or who could relate to me. So a lot of women who have kids, they want to start something and they could relate to me. And that's all it is. With you personal branding, you need to know who your target audience is. This is where a lot of people are missing when they're building a brand, a personal brand or business brand. Who's your target audience? If you don't know who's your target audience, you don't know who you're talking to, nobody could relate to you. My go-to thing has always been, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. That's it. So if you know who your target audience is and you brand it, your message tailored to that group of audience, you will stand out. You just I always say be the green fish in the go fish bowl. You stand out. That's it. It's just emotional attached. You know your target audience, you know what their pain point is, and you provide value in that aspect. And this is how your brand live. This is how your business grow. This is how people will willingly take out their wallet and pay you to do business with you. That's it. That's all I have.
That's super instructive. So, Michael, over to you. How do you think that can impact on your sales circle? Let's say we are speaking to a team lead right now and is struggling. Their team is struggling. Typically sales team will come and say that the marketing is not doing a lot. Like there's this tussle between marketing and sales. It's an age long riot that we always experience.
Yeah.
You're a sales coach like myself, a trainer, and they'll always say the organization is not doing so much about marketing, right? The CEO is not known and it's affecting us when we go talk to people. They don't know us, like, and it's making the process is making the circle so long because they get to do a lot to convince people. So there's the frustration and all that. So now the question is this: we have a team lead listening to us right now. We have a business manager listening to us right now, a founder. What do you think is the implication of investing in your personal branding, and how does that impact on the sales circle?
Now that's absolutely critical. So I've always believed in the approach of the push and the pull, right? We all know the push is where we do it's within our control, right? We do outbounding and pipeline generation, but then the pull are the things we're talking about, right? The things which is within our control, but it almost drives in business when we're sleeping, right? Now back to your scenario about the team lead. I have somebody who is part of a team that I'm consulting, and this gentleman started and he came in with a full force of, I'm going to be leveraging AI videos as my brand on LinkedIn for this company, right? Obviously, there are others that are using phone calls and a myriad of other ways. And I kid you not, when we looked at the reach that he's getting for some of the videos, the engagement might be lower, but the reach and some of the DMs that he's getting we were like, oh, and I've always been preaching to some of the people that I coach that leverage LinkedIn, obviously as a platform, but always start above the rest. And Temitope, I think, made a point around, he gave a scenario, right? You got to stand out. And if you're almost leveraging LinkedIn audio, LinkedIn video that barely anybody else is using, he came in and he was using video on his platform, and it made a significant difference. He's generating opportunities. Now, back to your scenario. If I'm that team lead, and I will know that before buyers make a decision, they do a ton of research. You rightly said, Omotola, that they do something like 80% already have done a lot of the work before they reach out to us. The first thing they'll do is they want to see who's in the team of the company that I'm going to be buying from, right? And I know some that are very meticulous in their research, right? So the least you can do as a leader, as a team leader, is almost publish impactful, value-led, influential content about the value that you're bringing to businesses, right? Because guess what? If they somehow found you on LinkedIn, found you on socials, and they clicked on it, you're almost reinforcing what decision they've already made in their mind to say, oh, I get it. Or maybe give them a different perspective. For me, that's the minimum you can do. Very low lift, absolutely cost you nothing, just a bit of your time, that you can do to improve and shorten the sales cycle. Because you're almost saying, hey, I know you're looking at other channels. When you look at me as well, I'm going to give you that reinforcement. I think, Candace added the whole emotional piece and the logic. Enough said about that. But as that lead, and again, in the past, I've worked at businesses where they mandate the reps to say, look, this is a simple tool that you can use to publish something on LinkedIn. And it's mandatory. You have to do it, right? Because they know when you do it, the reach, compounding effect, all that stuff, works out in our favor. So I won't even bar an eyelid, right? That leader has to publish. But then, I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about this, but I was almost thinking when Temitope was talking, when Candace was talking, you guys are experts, right? We know this. There are others that don't know what we're talking about. And I'm sure someone listening thinking, like, it's almost that scenario of if a fish was judged by its ability to climb trees, it will live a life thinking it's stupid, right? Because that's all it knows. And I'm just thinking, we know this, but others don't. And this is where the specialist advisory council, like what you're doing, Omotola, what Candice has been doing, people need this kind of consultancy, this kind of advisory service, because they don't know it, right? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because it's a critical point, but people need help. Like, founders need this help because they're good at what they do. They stick in their lane, but they don't know what you guys are doing or some of the stuff that I'm doing. So it's critical that we voice out about these things. Yeah.
And to add to what you said, one of the things that I would always say whenever we are having a consultation session or it's in the training room, and mind you, like I said at the beginning of the session, we are organizing a 2 days branding and visibility retreat. It's going to be a physical event, and the design is to help business leaders like you who is struggling right now, we're founder, to look at how do I begin to position myself in a way that I'm complementing what my corporate brand is doing. Because we have already established it. You are that person who helps your sales team, you are that person who helps your team to warm up people who are just coming into contact with your business for the first time. Peradventure, in their adventure or in the course of your research, they stumbled on your profile as a founder. What you're doing is that you're helping to pre-warm them. Sales conversations start at credibility, not introduction. And the less time is spent on proving the legitimacy of your business, the faster it will be for your sales team to close that deal. So this means that for you as a business leader, for you as a team lead, even for you as that salesperson, for you as that business leader, for you as a founder, if you can focus in a significant portion of your attention to developing your personal brand, what you're doing is that you're creating an infrastructure that pre-build before even the first, that pre-builds trust even before conversation comes in. Your team would end up doing few discovery calls. They make faster movements from introduction to proposal and then closing deals. And there's also a lower dropout at after first contact whenever your sales team are interacting. And people spend shorter time at the top of the funnel such that it's easy for them to it's a case of you diving in. So it's not like you're just swimming from the shore. No, it will be a case of them diving into that funnel and it's just a straight move to conversion straight up. Why? Because you have complemented what they are doing with you ensuring that you are visible. See, most B2B and high value B2C purchases are not just product decision. They are more like career risk decisions. They are business risk decisions. And a visible leader signals accountability, especially someone standing efficiently and effectively behind what your team is doing. It's not just about you reposting what your team is sharing or posting online. It's not just about reposting what an industry platform has created. You need to wear the thinking cap of a thought leader. You need to wear the cap of one who understand how to translate this vision into value. You need to be able to capture what what your product or what your service has as promise into something tangible that whoever needs to make that decision. You need to humanize the organization in such a way that whoever needs to make that decision knows that okay, I'm making this decision because I know what they are bringing to me. It's not a risk, right? It's a decision that I know will propel my business forward. So, I'm actually some of the questions I actually am asking from us are also based off of what people have shared, in the pre-registration. So per adventure, we are not getting so much of questions. They were actually born out from those areas of interest that people really want clarity on. So, lastly, from Candace and from Michael, what's your final word to us? Because I know that if I go back to this conversation right now, it's a packed masterclass. And I like the fact that every one of us brought our A game. So, lastly, from you, Candace, what's your final word to us?
I think for final words, I appreciate what Michael just mentioned. A lot of, because we have been doing it for years, we know what we're talking about, right? But there's a lot of people still kind of confused about branding and website and logo. So I appreciate he brought that up. So my last thing before we drop off, I would say that you don't know what you don't know. So if you, after this conversation, you still feel as you don't know what this all mean, it's always good to have a conversation and ask question, right? Because all of us on here, because we feel as we have something to share and we could help others, and so ask question. If you don't know, ask question. Branding is so important, and if you're not understanding this topic right now, you need to. So yeah.
Thank you very much. And you, Michael?
I think Candice summed it up quite well. I mean, we've covered a number of topics today, but I think for me, we talk about the branding from a business level, from an individual level, and I love analogies. And there's another one that comes to me that says, an egg that's broken from an outside force, life ends, and when it's broken from an inside force, life begins. Right now, every business needs to build that life from inside out, and I think we've talked about it, right? The values, the vision, all the things which will empower employees to then go out and hopefully build trust with prospects and with clients. So I think, for founders that are listening, really focus on giving clarity or vision and really kind of having values that anchor the business and the vision. And for individuals that want to be out there, again, people of faith will say a city on the hill can't be hidden, right? And therefore, consult with individuals that know what they're talking about, like yourselves, that can actually put them on that hill. Because once you're up there, you're seen. and I think that that's important. That's so. These are my parting words.
Thank you so much. And lastly, from my hand, to consolidate on what everybody has said so far, I would say that branding in 2026 is not just about being known. It's about being trusted before even the conversation begins. And for founders and leaders who are listening to us, if sales feels heavier than it should, if partnerships take longer than expected, if visibility feels confusing rather than being strategic, then the issue is really effort. It is usually brand positioning and trust infrastructure. And this is why we have created this conversation because it is clarity, not just provide to you simple 7-step tactics that would just be easily just take it and copy it and translate it into something. That's not what we are doing here. This conversation is meant to help you put words to whatever struggle that you're currently feeling right now. And for those of us who want to go deeper, there are structured ways to be designing your brand, to gaining visibility, and to also designing go-to-market strategy so that they support your revenue. These elements that I have listed, branding, visibility, designing a go-to-market strategy, they are not to compete with the business, they are to complement it. And that's where advisory and deeper work becomes useful, as Michael already says. So please ensure that you leave here with a new mental model of what branding is. It is a revenue infrastructure. I want us to also leave this conversation with clarity on leadership visibility as against just promotion of your service or product. I want you to leave here with practical insight into how you can lead a trust-led business that impacts on growth in 2026. Ask questions, like Candice has said, because when you ask better questions, then you'll be able to make significant and impactful brand decisions that drives your business forward. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We want to say thank you, wherever it is that you're joining us from. And like I said, we have a branding and positioning which is coming up in March. Feel free to send in the DM to the team, and they will pick it up and um, give you other details about it. Please connect with Michael on LinkedIn. His name is as it is right here. Connect with Candice. Her names, you can find Candice. I know you can find Michael on Instagram as well, but his name is not Michael. I don't think on IG, right? So what I would do is once we are done with this, we'll put together a post on our page that gives you all of the details that you need to contact or reach out to any of those persons. I know Michael is in UK, Candice is in the US, I'm here in Nigeria. And all that we are doing is to create this virtual domain, as the name of the business implies, such that wherever it is that you are, you can have access to any resources, any expertise with little or no stress. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We have another event coming up on the 22nd of February, and it's going to be doubling down on this conversation. And I can't wait to have every one of us also join us. So, ciao. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Candice. Thank you, Michael. Have a beautiful evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.